Hi, everyone. I am Kelly Tolliday, and I'm checking in today from La Barra, Uruguay. And I just wanted to share maybe weekly updates of our experience here in Uruguay with Boundless Life. So, my family and I have decided to join the 3 month cohort here, the 3 month program from April to June. And one of their locations from around the world, they have 8 locations, is in La Barra, Uruguay. And we decided to join our first program ever with Boundless down here in this gorgeous little surf town right outside of Punta del Este. So I thought I'll just share weekly, maybe accountability. We'll see how regular and consistent I can be with these videos. But I remember when we were first looking at programs and we were like trying to YouTube everything, and we looked at their Portugal location and their Spain location and their Greece location. And because their Uruguay location is so new, there really wasn't that much information on YouTube specific to Boundless Life in La Barra. And of course, there's videos on YouTube about Uruguay as a destination. There's a lot on Montevideo, a little bit on Punta del Este, not so much that many specific to families and specific to families that like to surf. There wasn't that much information about this particular destination on YouTube. And so I thought, okay, I am not a YouTube creator by any means. Most of my videos are going to be in vertical because I'm always shooting for Instagram. So bear with me on my videos because it's not going to be high quality. I'm not a pro editor. I just wanted to be able to share information that I couldn't find when I was researching and trying to decide which location, which destination with Boundless Life to go to. For those tuning in that don't know what Boundless Life is, Boundless Life, the way that I describe it, it's like study abroad, but for family. If you ever studied abroad in college, you got your apartment or your accommodation sorted, you had a place to go study, you had like a built in friend group because you were going with perhaps kids from your university. And that's a little bit what Boundless Life is. They have 8 locations around the world and they help you set up with an apartment or a home. They have an education center for kids aged 18 months up to, I think, like 14 years. And then in certain locations around the world, they have 14, 15, 16. I could be wrong, but like for teenagers, they have different locations for that. So they set you up with the education center. There's obviously a built in community because there's families from all around the world that are joining the program. So we have a Slack channel, we have a WhatsApp channel, and everyone's always chatting and learning from each other and sharing information that we find out the destination. So it's a little bit like that study abroad in college feel. Oh, they also have a co-working center. So majority of the families that are joining are remote working families. And so there's a co-working center with high-speed internet and like soundproof booths if you need to take an important call. Our co-working hub here in La Barra has a heated pool. So we'll be taking calls from the pool. But yeah, so that's a little bit about what Boundless Life is. They have locations, like I said, in 8 different destinations around the world. So check out their website, boundless.life. And if you're interested in joining a Boundless Life program, they've got 3 month programs. They also have summer camps and they have December, like winter escapes that you can join. If you want to join a Boundless Life program, you can use my code KELTOL11, KELTOL11 for €400 off of your total price. So, why did we decide Uruguay as a destination? Out of all of their beautiful European locations, they have locations in Japan and Bali. We wanted to be as close to the Eastern time zone as possible for my work, for my husband's company. It just made a lot more sense to be on Eastern US time. Also, Spanish immersion is number one for me at the moment with my girls, and for me personally as well, is to be as immersed in the Spanish language, in the culture down here. It was really important to me, as well as being as close to the beach and as close to surf as possible. So that was like number one, was those parameters for finding a destination for us. It's still, even though it's in South America and we're from Florida, you'd think it'd be really easy to get to. It's still not the easiest destination. Even if we had a direct flight from Miami, it's a 9 hour overnight flight, which is not bad. Like our girls understand that. They know the drill at this stage. But as we get more into off season, it's actually becomes a little more complicated. There's usually a connecting flight in Sao Paulo or in Panama City. So it's not as easy as a direct flight, let's say from Miami to Lisbon or Miami to Madrid, which would get us closer to some of those European locations. But with that said, it's still very easy when we fly into Montevideo. It's only an hour and a half drive to La Barra. So it's not like you're driving for hours and hours to get to your destination. So that was a little bit about why we decided to choose La Barra as our first Boundless Life program. In the lead up to getting prepared, we had probably decided to join. Yeah, we put our deposit down for the program last April. So it would be almost a full year that we had put the deposit down. So about 6 months prior to this point, so probably September, October, I actually started to properly clear through our house because I knew that we were going to rent our house while we were gone. So I decided to start 6 months ahead so I could go room by room and start really clearing out the house and really starting that process so it wasn't overwhelming when we got to the final month. With that said, it was still overwhelming. The final month was still a lot. And from what I hear from other Boundless families with their first program, when you're preparing to rent your house for the first time ever, give yourself a lot of grace and give yourself a lot more time than you think that you need. It was just, we had already prepared and purged and got rid of so much stuff. And still, it was just a lot to decide what to keep for the renters because we were keeping our house furnished, what made sense for us to pack up and store, what made sense for us to just give away. So it still takes more time than you think you're going to need. And I highly recommend starting that process as early as you can. We also have two dogs, and this was probably the harder part of the process was deciding the best situation for them. And we were able to find a beautiful like luxury farm in Virginia where they get to have a nature sabbatical for 4 months in the lead up to this trip. We had to drive them from South Florida up to Virginia, which is about a 12-hour drive. So that took about 2, 3 days out of that month was driving them up there, staying overnight, flying home. That was a whole process for sure, but we wanted to make sure that our dogs had the absolute best care while we were gone and we're getting weekly updates from them. So that's been really great to know that they're very much taken care of. Like I mentioned, the week leading up to leaving was super hectic. We're still working full time. We have two kids. We're getting our house prepared to rent. We're packing up for 4 months, going to a destination that neither of us had ever been to. And although you can read about the weather, of course, prepare knowing what the temperatures may be like, you still don't really know exactly what you need until you get there. So, all that to say is just give yourself as much grace as you possibly can with just how hectic it might be trying to prepare to leave. And just know that when you arrive, you'll settle down and it'll feel like a distant memory. Everyone always talks about like the tips to prepare to leave. And it's going to be manic, it's going to be crazy. And it's also just part of the process. So when we first landed in Montevideo, it was 8 a.m. and we decided to spend one night in Montevideo just to let ourselves land. And it actually was like pouring down rain, like flooding in the city when we arrived, which was a bummer because we wanted to see the city, but also it just forced us to hole up in the hotel and get some work done, prepare, let the kids rest. And because it had been so hectic preparing to leave, it allowed us to just fully decompress before making the drive the next day out into Punta del Este in La Barra. So the next day we picked up our rental car. We drove the 2 hours from the city, and it's an hour and a half from the airport, but 2 hours from the city. We made that drive virtually empty roads. It was super easy, like super smooth ride, literally. And yeah, we got into our apartment, we unpacked, went to the grocery store. If you're doing a Boundless Life program, I would highly recommend trying to arrive like a couple days before, or maybe even a week before to give yourself that chance to get the lay of the land, go to the big grocery stores, figure out where everything is. We needed to buy 2 surfboards, and it just takes all that stuff just takes longer than you think it will. And it's super stressful if you're trying to do all this and also get the kids to their new school in 2 days' time. So I would recommend giving yourself as much time before the program starts to settle in. So our first impressions when we were driving through the city for the first time or the town for the first time was, oh my God, this feels like Canggu in Bali meets Byron Bay in Australia meets Monterey in California. All of our favorite places around the world just wrapped up. Like I look out the window and I see the Australian pines and I'm like, oh my God, am I in Manly Beach right now? Am I in Bondi? Am I in the Byron Shire when I go like 5 minutes inland and I just see the rolling hills and the cows and the horses? I'm like, am I in the Shire right now? So it's a very calm, gentle, tranquil, beautiful place, no matter which direction you go into. And we've absolutely fell in love with it from the moment that we arrived. I think that's the thing that surprised me the most was just how much we fell in love with this particular location. We have an apartment that's right across from the beach. Literally, I'm looking at the ocean right now out of our room, out of our window. And it's right out in front of kind of like the beginner break for surfing. And it's exactly what we were looking for, was to just see the ocean and be as close to the beach as possible. We get our boogie boards, walk down our stairs, cross the road, and we're right there on the beach. And so we've only been here for 1 week. As I mentioned, we're here. I'm going to give as many weekly updates as I can, but we've only been here for 1 week. And we were actually here during tourism week, which is the week leading up to Easter, Semana Santa. And so in Uruguay, it's a very popular week for the beach locations around the country. And so we were able to see it in a little bit of a touristy time. It's not definitely nowhere near what January and summer peak season would look like, but we got a feel of what summer might feel like. And now every week after this week, it'll start getting slower and quieter, which is actually what we came here for, was to have a really quiet destination. But yeah, it was awesome to be here during tourism week, during Semana Santa. My parents came for the first week to get to be able to see where we were living. And I think that's going to make a big difference for them. When I'm telling stories about what we're doing and where we're going, they're actually able to visualize the street and the restaurant and the school and all of that. So I think that made this experience super special. And in this first week, we were able to explore Jose Ignacio on a super beautiful sunny day. We went to Portal Bosque, which is a really beautiful forest that was made for kids' activities. So there's like robotics, there's art, there's dance, there's Legos, there's zip lining. It's in a really amazing cafe right there in the middle of the forest. So it's a beautiful, tranquil place to go with your kids. We'll definitely be spending a lot more time there. And we were able to go to the skate park and go into Punta del Este for a night out on a Friday night. We had a beautiful, like, feel that city buzz again, because we're from a really vibrant, busy town in South Florida. And so it felt nice to get back into that city again. But again, this is our first week here. I just wanted to share a little bit about our experience. This week, this upcoming week, our kids start the school with Boundless Life. So I'll be able to share a little bit more about our thoughts on how school's going, how the co-working space is going. And again, I didn't find a lot of this information prior to us booking. And because it's such a quiet and truly underestimated country to travel, there's really not that much information, especially for travel with families to a country like Uruguay. So I want to be able to share as much as I can. So feel free to ask questions in the comments. If you like this video, if it's helpful, feel free to like it. And if you're thinking about booking a World School program with Boundless Life, a summer camp, or a winter getaway, please use my code KELTOL11, so KELTOL11, and you'll get €400 off of your first program. All right, we'll see you next week.